Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to International Affairs. This is, of course, broadcasting from the SATV studio located in Gulshan, Dhaka. I want to welcome all of our viewers to this special broadcast today. Of course, we have a wonderful level of panelists in the studio as well as across Zoom. In the studio, I'm joined by Professor Rashid Alam from Dhaka University. I welcome him on to the program today. A very happy new year as well.
Thank you.
And this would be the first time of this year that he has visited, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent from Washington, D.C. I believe there is an update regarding the Gaza Board of Peace. Donald Trump has invited the very person that was implicated in the mass murder and genocidal acts across Gaza. Of course, I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu. Despite an ICC warrant seeking his arrest for war crimes in Gaza, will add to various concerns over the objectivity of the board of this peace, and how it will understand the Palestinian statehood is a matter of question. I want to begin with Norman Floyd Barnes. I know that yesterday we were talking about this very issue on how the Moroccan king as well as the Kremlin was invited to join this board of peace, and now we have the very person who started this genocide being a part of this board of peace. How do you see this? This is definitely a different rhetoric, different type of occupation, if you would call it. I want to understand more from Norman Floyd Barnes.
Greetings this morning from Washington. Yes, it appears that the Israeli prime minister, who on the world scale is considered a war criminal, has been invited and has accepted a seat on the Gaza Board of Peace. Such a contradiction. It appears that he will now be an integral part. We don't know if he's going to be a permanent member, which has a fee of $1 billion, $1 billion US dollars to join on a permanent basis. But right now, he's a member of the newly created Board of Peace. I have nothing to say. I don't know what will follow. I'm just waiting to see exactly how the world is going to respond to this.
Correct. I want to focus on this very issue back into the studio, that the board members not only include the nations that have mentioned, but also includes the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Vietnam, Belarus, Hungary, Kazakhstan, and Argentina, amongst others that have joined this board of peace. He is creating a modern styled business infrastructure, calling it a board of peace, trying to address the plight of the Gazans, the Palestinians. However, how successful would he be by including the very person who caused all of this wreckage in Gaza? So it's very contradictory. And I want to know, do you think that this would help the people of Gaza?
Thank you so much for inviting me in today's show. So the literature, but theoretical framework, the way we understand peace, the way we understand peace building, and the way we understand the reconstruction of that after the destruction. So the way the peace board that Donald Trump is proposing, and the way he's making the peace board is like it's completely from a business interest, and also completely lots of contradiction within it. As he said already, the person who himself committed the genocide, and the person who is himself the main responsible culprit behind those genocide and every form of destruction in Gaza currently we are seeing, how on earth he can be part of those peace board. So this is actually the Donald Trump way of thinking of global peace or global standard that we are seeing in recent times. So he doesn't follow any economic theory. He doesn't follow any international rule-based order. He doesn't follow international peacemaking effort. And the way he is actually blaming Norwegian government recently, that's right, also make us understand his level of knowledge and his level of actually, the way he sees these things is very much, very much controversial and very much, I must say, I think the American people has chosen a person, I think is actually doing lots of shameful activities, shameful speeches, shameful talk for the American citizens. So I think overall, it's a shame for the way America is ruling the country at the moment, and the way world is seeing the American role in terms of all the aspects. So across the, I mean, the way he attacking green, threatening to attack the Greenland, the way he attacked Venezuela. So everything is like a chronology of his error of committees. So I want to say that that's my initial observation about this, how they're gonna build this peace board. And I think it will not help. It will not help because you have to eliminate the fundamental causes of the conflict, and you have to eliminate, if you want to reconstruction the Gazan society, it has to be the Gazan people who might be in the power and who might be self-ruling, and you have to give them the reconstruction fund, rebuilding fund.
Right.
And you cannot impose your own plan on the Gazan people, and it will not work. It hasn't worked in Iraq either, it hasn't worked in Libya either. So I must say that this would be also a failure.
Of course, a very beautiful observation. Once we thought that this Board of Peace was ready, we thought it would take baby steps in understanding the destruction in Gaza. And of course, that is this very destruction was caused by Benjamin Netanyahu's orders
himself,
and the IDF. And today, that very person is on that Board of Peace. I want to understand the Hamas involvement. We don't hear about Hamas when we talk about the Board of Peace. There are technocratic people who are involved. Donald Trump's son-in-law is involved. His special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is also involved. But there is more news regarding Israel and their acts in the East Jerusalem. Israeli forces and far-right nationalist security minister Ben-Gvir yesterday stormed and ransacked the closed headquarters of the UN Agency for Palestinian refugees in East Jerusalem. Of course, witnesses added that the Israeli forces also raised the Israeli flag over the compound, replacing the UN flag. So this is the latest as I have as of yesterday. I want to come to Norman Flood Barnes. As I was reading the news, there is tensions regarding even the UN, the United Nations headquarters that I have just read out. And of course, as Professor Rashid Alam was saying, that this is highly contradictory to the initial plan of the Board of Peace, and which of course made sure that people were optimistic regarding the rebuilding of Gaza. Also, the Palestinians were looking forward to a different scope this very year. However, right now with the including of Benjamin Netanyahu in this board, it really does question what is the end goal of this entire plan. I want to know more from Norman Flood Barnes.
Yes, through the construction of this board, it appears that there's a plan, and the plan is basically to reorganize Palestine, that region, and involve the Israelis, particularly the prime minister and his goal to make sure to ensure that the Palestinian government, the people of Palestine, would never have an opportunity to basically self-govern. So by putting this board together, by having the Americans, by having other countries come in, it gives a strong indication that there's a plan, and the plan is not geared towards the Palestinian people, a self-governing environment, more of a colony again of the Western world and the environment. It appears to be another transactional situation, deal with business, and the business is not with the Palestinian, it's global business, and how they can reorganize and create a new, I guess, trade and commerce hub in that region. So we have to wait and see, but I'm not very optimistic about the peace part of this board. It's more about the profit part of the board. Thank you.
A very nice observation by Norman Flood Barnes. Of course, it is called a Board of Peace, but how much of peace will be offered, especially in the background of 80,000 deaths and 500,000 of the Palestinians who were injured in this almost 2 years, 3 years now going retaliation and aggression. There are other updates in the Middle East that I want to bring out for our viewers and as well as my panelists. We understand that the Syrian government was fighting in the northeast with the Kurdish-led fighters of the SDF. And of course, the news states that there have been a ceasefire which will extend to 4 days, a 4-day long ceasefire between Syria and the SDF. Of course, they were fighting regarding various issues, and the ceasefire came into effect yesterday at 8 p.m. So once again, this fighting was going on in various towns in the northeast, and we see that this is coming right after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, someone who is now seeking exile in Russia. So the foreign counterpart, the foreign backing of multiple countries, and the fact that Syria has gone through lots of rapid changes. And not only so, we were talking about Israel, and even the Israeli government had attacked the Ministry of Defense earlier on last year.
Right.
This is a time, a very crucial time for Middle East. Just a couple of days ago, we've seen Iran threatening all the US bases in the region in Middle East. So it's a very volatile environment even after 21 days. So I want to understand what is your observation regarding Syria, because it is of course home to thousands of ISIL or ISIS fighters.
Right.
It is important because even the man in charge, Ahmed al-Shara, used to be member of some
the terrorist organization earlier. You rightly said, when you study Middle East, like the current problem Middle East is having actually is creation by the colonization. Like, you know, when the First World War was over, so the mandated rule has been established in most part of the Ottoman land that they captured by the France and Britain, and they actually instigated these issues. Like, they have created artificial border. There were multi-ethnic, multi-racial population. Like, could this question is one of the biggest question. Like, so there could these communities in various part of Iraq, some part of Syria, and also some part of Turkey. But Turkey should have a single land, but that doesn't happen. So Turkish citizens, Turkish-born people in Turkey, it's the Kurdish in Turkey is there, they are in Syrians, they are in Iraq as well. So currently, you know, the Middle Eastern question is like the lack of central authority, lack of a strong central man is a big problem now Syria is having, that we have recently observed in Libya as well. After the fall of Gaddafi, you can see there are a lot of sectarianism and also the regional authority, regional leader emerging, and also instigated by the different foreign force like UAE, Turkey, and then other countries as well, and Saudi Arabia in some context. So I think this is the problem, like consolidating the power into a single government and single central government is become a very much challenging issues in many part of the Middle Eastern countries. It's not only in Syria, it's having a problem in Yemen. We have also similar problem, like South Yemen, North Yemen, and also there is insurgency by the different insurgent group, and also there are issues in the Libya as well. So I think this is a common cases that Middle East is having currently, and instigated by the foreign intervention forces to create those instabilities and lack of centralized authority. And a strong man and a strong central government is the biggest problem Syria is having at the moment. And a fall of Assad actually perpetuated by this different insurgent group, and because of the lack of security forces, lack of centralized authority, and lack of legitimacy by Ahmed al-Shara, as you say, like he's also part of the terrorist syndicate earlier, ISIL, and you know the biggest emergence of the ISIL also emerged in Syria and also Iraq as well. So that's the area where there are some vulnerable points, vulnerable population who can be manipulated and who can be given by the armed rebellion, and that causing the insurgency and more death and violence in the whole of the region. I think this is one of the biggest problems that Syria is having, and also it's a common in like Yemen, in common like North Libya. So.
And a stout observation, of course. Given the low, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his US counterpart Donald Trump held a phone call on Tuesday discussing the bilateral ties and regional global issues. He of course talked about that he's monitoring very closely the following developments in Syria. I want to come to Norman Flood Barnes. We know that Turkey is a global player, is of course someone who cannot be ignored when talking about issues in the Middle East. Of course, Turkey is also the crossroads of the world. Historically, it combines Asian with Europe. So that is a place that is of high concern. Of course, the leaders also exchanged views on the fight against IS, which is of course ISIS, the Daesh, the situation of IS members in Syrian prisons. So, of course, this is a faction war, if I would call it, of course, infighting between the two rebel groups.
Right.
So, I want to understand, do you think that there would be an exchange where this ceasefire could be extended to the rest of the year?
Thank you for that very question. But the the positive part of this is that they have agreed to a 4-day ceasefire. Hopefully, during this time, they'll take the opportunity to talk. The issue is that we're not communicating. People are not communicating their issues, their concerns, what they think. They're resorting to violence. Violence is never the answer, never will be the solution. So hopefully someone will get there and talk. Let's communicate exactly how can we comfortably coexist without this conflict. There must be a solution because if you can come to a agreement to provide a ceasefire, a pause, you can also come to agreement on how you can end this thing.
Completely correct regarding the fact that people are not communicating in a world that we live on information. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to go on a short break, but after the break we shall be discussing about Davos, Switzerland, and how the World Economic Forum is going to be the stage in January in how the leaders will talk. Of course, yesterday Emmanuel Macron has delivered a result. We will all talk about these issues after a commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10, Dhaka.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Of course, today I'm joined by Professor Rashid Alam of Dhaka University in the studio, while we have Norman Floyd Barnes at Washington, D.C. It's a very important time. I want to talk about the Davos Summit, the World Economic Forum taking place in Davos, Switzerland. It is important because even Emmanuel Macron, wearing his blue shades, has come up on various media outlets even as of yesterday evening. And he said that the world is in a flux, resisting the law of the strongest. A world and the global order is shifting towards a world without rules. Of course, he had this message regarding whatever that is taking place on behalf of the United States administration. I want to come to Norman Floyd Barnes. I'm sure that he has been hearing the various leaders taking stage at Davos, how Emmanuel Macron's speech was very important, how it all connects to the fact of annexation of Greenland. And of course, Donald Trump had a hiccup before leaving the mainland United States for Davos, as Air Force One had an electrical failure. However, he is on his way to Davos and he will be delivering his speech there. He is set to meet with retaliation regarding Greenland. All of these venues, I want to know more. I want to have an analysis from Norman Floyd Barnes.
Thank you for the opportunity to give my analysis. Yes, as we speak, the president and his administration will meet with the world leaders in Davos at the World Economic Forum. As we talk about this, President Trump has an agenda, and he's going to talk about that agenda during the speech this evening. He will be approximately 3 hours late because of the changing of the planes and the issue with the transportation. So he will be late coming there, but the entire forum is waiting and anticipating his arrival. They want to hear what he has to say. The response so far is that we don't understand what you're doing, why you're doing this, and why are you trying to penalize the world for things that you obviously don't understand. Apparently, the issue of Greenland is pushing the entire European Union and NATO to the point of relationship issues with the United States. Either way, how this thing comes out, the relationship with the United States and the EU will be affected. Some people say it may be fractured. It tells people that the United States do not look out. Well, the United States is looking out for its own welfare, its own being, and at the cost of fracturing and maybe ending relationships with previous allies. So right now, they're waiting to see what he has to say. Greenland is against it. Most of the EU is against it. Very few supporters. Even the the business leaders coming from the United States has their concerns about how this thing going to work and how does it fit in terms of the advancement of the American way and how this will benefit the people. Right now, there's no, they can't see the benefits. There's rumors out there that there's a cash plan, a deal is being proposed that will also give money to the people in Greenland and also to the Danish government for the purchase of this. But right now, everything appears that President Trump is hell-bent on getting and purchasing and acquiring and annexing Greenland into the United States.
Of course, it is rhetorical and somewhat speculative when you think about purchasing a sovereign land or purchasing or using monetary methods as a means to acquire land across from outside of your territory. I want to talk about how the U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent has commented. He had said to European countries pushing back on the U.S. attempt to acquire Greenland that they should sit down and wait for President Donald Trump to arrive at the World Economic Forum and listen to his argument. So, of course, those working in the U.S. administration are asking the European leaders to sit back and wait. So, these are, of course, aggressive toned messages.
Right,
and I believe that good sense will prevail at the end. But as I was understanding, the residents of Greenland, do they really need America on its border? or whether, is there going to be a relocation of the people back to Denmark? These are important questions given the fact that the World Economic Forum will be challenging the fact that how is the US going to be a part of Greenland, and whether or not Greenland will have its own sovereignty question is a matter of a couple of days now, because for the last 21 days Greenland has been on the cards and has been on the mind of US President Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Your observation would be important.
So I hope Greenland will continue to maintain their own sovereignty, and the way Donald Trump is seeing this world will not be, it's not possible. It's not possible at all. I think he will be threatening the NATO. He will be threatening the his allies that located in the Western Europe. I think that will be a fatal mistake if that happened. Particularly, when he imposed 10% extra tariff, and also if and 25% that will be extended in after 1st of June. So this is a huge blow to the business and commerce and trading, particularly for the European country, the business, the trading houses in USA and also in Europe. And I think the pressure will be absolutely mounted on Donald Trump as well, because when already the stock market has collapsed last 2 days, the gold price is skyrocketing, but
as well as the silver price as well, because uncertainty is prevailing.
Uncertainty is because the way like the tech companies, the way they do business in the Europe, that will not gonna be happen anymore if if Donald Trump imposition of the tariff will actually taken place. So EU also will impose gonna be retaliation action, and that will actually put huge pressure on the US companies, and that ultimately cause a huge mistake for the Donald Trump, because these business companies will gonna then pressurize Donald Trump to come back and push back from his original policies. And I think the global rule-based order will be seriously hampered if that gonna be happen. Like, you cannot attack a sovereign land, and that's not for sale. Actually, the sovereignty is not negotiable. Sovereignty is not for sale for any countries in the world. And I must respect the Greenland citizens. That they have the way they have been living in their own sovereignty status and part of Denmark government. This is their history, and they want to protect. And good that the European partners, they have given their support, and I think the European Parliament and also the Parliament in UK also, they talk about this childish act by the Donald Trump. Although he's posing it's like a security threat for USA, but actually world knows that he is looking for the rare materials in Greenland, and that is a serious threat for catalyzing the World War III. And we are actually, as you said rightly, that we are now no longer living in the world of globalization. We are now seriously moving towards the age of imperialism again. And the US imposed imperialism, and then we are no longer talking about the Russia-Ukraine peace deal. That was the debated issue. What cake issues last 2-3 weeks before, but that issue is now under the graveyard, because the Donald Trump himself is diverting the issues. Right. So that's a huge concern for the global peace and stability, and also
definitely we'll come back to you, sir. I have Norman for a very short time, but I want to draw a conclusion and of course a case study. I want to ask this question. Before abducting Venezuela's leader, there was an issue of narco trafficking into the United States. Today, the Venezuelan leader is no longer there, but there is no news regarding this narco trafficking issue.
Yes.
So, given this case, there is no issues regarding Greenland, however, but do you think that what would be the means of settling this dispute over Greenland? And of course, NATO is also involved. I want a closing statement from Norman Floyd Barnes.
Well, it appears that just like the Venezuela, we went into Venezuela on the issue of crime and drug. Incidentally, now you notice that the drug issue has stopped. There's no more issue with the drugs. There's some agreement been made with the current administration there, and we're moving towards Greenland, and now we're looking at Greenland as basically the United States wants to purchase your land. They want to annex your land as part of the United States, and we want to use the reason is that national security. So right now, the president is making agreements and plans together to offer a deal to the Danish government and also to the people of Greenland that we are now coming in. We're going to annex your country because of area of national security, eminent domain, term we use for the purpose of our own national security. And we're willing to pay you for this. If you don't want the money, that's fine. But we are still going to be here, and we will hopefully have you as a willful and a grateful participant in our process. But we are hell bent on acquiring Greenland, and it's going to be done, stated by the Trump administration. It's going to be done with your will or you without your will. So we're coming in, and we dare anyone to try to stop what we're doing. So right now we are looking at how this thing's going to play out, if it's possible. Yes, it will be an initiation of it, but how long is this going to be a sustainable venture? We don't know. We know we have in the past we have a situation where the Trump administration have initiated things here in the United States that has not been we call quite legal or righteous in terms of the participants, and they had to reverse it. So right now, it appears that the Trump administration is ready to engage in the acquisition of this land. Whether or not it will hold up, whether or not it will be sustainable is questioned. But right now, the intent is to go into Greenland, whether they like it or not.
So I have a question for Norman Floyd Barnes.
He might be disconnected, but I will try to reconnect him back. Yes, I will try to reconnect Norman Floyd Barnes, but I must also thank him for his observation regarding this issue. I want to come back to the studio with Professor Rashid Alam. I want to know what question you had for Norman.
So just U.S. court has supposed to give a verdict on Trump's tariff decision. So so do you think that the U.S. court will independently give that verdict whether the Trump administration is, in the right way they are imposing those global tariffs? And
that's a very sound question given the fact of 21 days. I would want to answer your question as well as we wait for Norman's connection. It is not just one issue of tariff between the nexus between the legal framework and the decision-making framework or the executive order framework that Donald Trump has implemented. Of course, the court has said that these 70 nations and tariffing these nations would be illegal. And of course, the fight with the educational institutions. Very early in his tenure, in his second term, he had fought Harvard and he has blamed some elements of anti-Semitism. All of these is being fought in the courts. But you do see the silence of the courts regarding international issues. For the Greenland issue, say, for example, there was a bipartisan team of senators who went into Denmark, went into Greenland and said that it's all right, we don't see eye to eye on the Donald Trump issue and the US would be in support of the sovereignty of these two states. The court has certain restrictions. Right now, Donald Trump is seen to the people as the president of war. Even though there has been talks about impeachment by the end of this year when the midterm election is set to be placed. But I want to have a question towards you as well. It is a very trying time. Donald Trump's policies have caused old friendships, tested friendships to sever, especially with NATO. And the NATO, any kind of retaliation from one angle, and if met with another retaliation, that would be the start of World War III. We know World War I started with the killing of Franz Ferdinand back in the day. And then that is how World War I happened. And of course, the Nazi Germany was the cause for the World War II. But who would be the cause for World War III is the question. What do you think this year? Would it be rough waters if compared to last year in this year?
I think the last couple of weeks was actually, there are lots of development, particularly when Donald Trump is speaking, and the way he is changing the global order is very much threatening to global peace and stability. And we have been seeing headlines and after headlines. So the way he's seeing the global order and global relation with the one country, and particularly you said the tested relation with the NATO. So USA, for its own interest to contain the Soviet expansionism, like the Soviet Socialist Republic during 1960s to 1990s. They created this NATO infrastructure, and they incorporate lots of members for against the Soviet aggression. Nowadays, I think they are no longer thinking about that. And also, earlier we had the Pentagon clash of civilization thesis, which seen that the white people do not fight white, and white democracies do not fight white democracies. But that
has been challenged openly today.
That openly challenged today. So that thesis no longer work anymore. And that Francis Fukuyama, the end of world, the end of history. That thesis also no longer working. So Donald Trump, the way he doesn't follow any economic theory, as far as I understand. Look, we thought he's a businessman. He will understand this tariff issues is a very much threatening to the global trade and business and the globalization that we had, particularly under the leadership of USA, like the World Trade Organization, World Bank, IMF. They are the institution which has promoted globalization, no tariffs, no extra measure in terms of
no barriers to entry,
no barriers to trade,
no barriers to trade.
And so, but now we are seeing total opposite development, and which is seriously threatening the global peace and stability, and also global order, like the economic order, political order, security order, whatever you say. Everything is in collapse, and particularly when he came to power for the second term. So I think the US midterm election would be a crucial, we must have to see that how American citizens are assessing the activities that Donald Trump is doing currently. So the midterm election would be vital. I think the way America is positioning itself into a global leader currently, particularly the collapse of USAID. He defined the USAID-like organization, which actually...
And it moved away from so many economies, and now people are living in distraught situations.
Absolutely.
And US does not have an aid plan for across the planet.
Right. And also, so US actually used to use soft power, like through the USA to manipulate the global system, like to import their democracy and those things, to export their democracy and bringing eliminating all forms of barriers in trade. That was their style, the traditional style of US politics. But now we are believing in different style of US politics, and I think a deep state inside or behind the curtain is operating, and Donald Trump is like a mouthpiece of that deep state of US.
Of course, that is exactly what we are set to believe, given the actions that he has been conducting over the last
few weeks.
Years.
Yeah.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go on a short break. After the break, we will have much more interesting issues to discuss. Do stay with us.
Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10.
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডের গাড়ির লগে।
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও? অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে?
কেডা?
হাঁস মুরগি মাছ।
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে
Welcome back to International Affairs. Our viewers who have supported this program from day one, this program would not have been successful without their viewership. But I want to talk about the various issues that have been important in the last 21 days. So I want to also focus, we've been focusing on the World Economic Forum in Davos. We've focused on the Israeli-Palestinian issues as well as Greenland. But I think it is time to talk about someone we have skipped out on today's program, Iran. I want to come to Professor Rashid Alam. In the lieu of the 21 days, even though they're not talking about it for the last 2 or 3 days, a protest scenario has wreaked havoc in Iran. Right. The legitimacy of the revolutionary government, the Islamic revolutionary government, and the world's only theocracy was challenged. Their legitimacy, the people versus the establishment, of course, was strained. And they were set to create a figure in which they were executing these prisoners. Of course, Donald Trump had made a comment that he will take smoother action, or there are options, severe options on the table. These were the last comments if the Iranian regime were to having these protesters executed. Of course, Irfan Soltani, they weren't executed at the end. They're still being tried. The investigations are still going on. So I want to understand how you felt about Iran. Also, Iran is one of the most highest exporters of fuel and crude oil.
Right. So Iranian issues like the way, we have been seeing there are lots of escalation last week. We were expecting that America might gonna attack Iran this week, but that didn't happen because of the American allies in the region like US, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt. They also thinking about like it will be a massive blow, particularly the US bases in the Middle Eastern countries. Iran, as you said, it's not only a theocratic government. We must acknowledge that Iran is actually a mixed forms of government, where theocratic leader is the head of the state, but the day-to-day government is run by a democratically elected president.
Right.
Ahmadinejad was one time president, then Khatami, then Rouhani, then and then now Pezeshkian is the head of the government. So Pezeshkian is like he's a reformist government. There is two blocks. One is like conservative forces, conservative government, and one is conservative bloc, and one is reformist bloc. Reformist bloc is more liberal. They want to continue the peace negotiation with the Western world to curtail down those sanctions, those economic sanctions, so that Iran can better prosper in the economic growth and other aspects. But no. What happened, like all the position came into the power in the government, he has been trying to broker a peace deal with the Western government. But unfortunately, the Western government and along with the US, they have turned down those peace negotiation effort that made by Pezeshkian. And rather, they imposed heavy sanction, economic sanction on Iran. That sanction has taken place in Iran since 1979. Even though Iran has been resilient, they try to self-reliant, particularly in terms of science, technology, research, and education. In terms of, the one most controversial issue regarding Iran, we have that the women have no rights in Iran. But that's a mistake. If you consider
controversial, the Iranian women have been working regarding the nuclear program in their country.
Exactly, and the number of women enrolling in the higher education is 90%, 80%, and more than the men. So that actually, that they have some certain culture, they believe in some religious beliefs, and they have some sort of convention, those things. But in terms of the human education, in terms of conducting democratic election in every 5 years, although there is a scrutiny in terms of who gonna be stand for the post of president. Like they have a guardian council who gonna scrutinize the member who want to be participate on those elections. So they have a mixed brand of government which is theocratic and also at the same time democratic. By far the standard of the Middle Eastern countries, they have a better standard. So currently, I don't know why US is very much, there is a protest going on, but the recent footage shows that there is a huge armed rebellion and huge armed supply. The Iranian IRGC forces and Iranian security forces captured lots of weapons which has been supplied from the outside the country. And that actually created these massive casualties that happened in last 2-3 weeks. Like the government source is 2,000, the outside source is 12,000 or 20,000 people died. So And recently, Imam Khomeini, the head of the state, has spoken like Donald Trump has to be blamed because he has instigated the protester to come down to the streets, and they come down with the street with those weapons supplied by the foreign, the Mossad. You know, the Mike Pompeo also admitted that the Mossad is in the street. So this is a huge, conspiracy, huge plot to ousting the current regime. So you have to be
destabilizing of the region.
Destabilizing. So you have to be careful. Are you willing to oust the position government, or are you willing to oust the Islamic Republic of Iran, the fundamental state structure? Which one you want to be
It's
willing
important
to?
because if you look at the United States of America, they do not really care about who is in power.
Yeah.
But they care about the plunder of resources, which is
Right,
important.
right.
And any kind of retaliation in the Middle East, I'm sure that other Middle Eastern partners of the U.S. have stepped in on this regard, that if these bases were to be attacked, that would be the site of World War III.
Right.
So
And
it's a
also the
very important
Israel
time.
is not ready at the moment. As I've said, there is a lack of soldier for the IDF at the moment. So Israel also want to buy some time. That's why Donald Trump probably pushed back from his earlier decision to attack Iran last week. So that could be another
Of course,
reason.
due to technical...
But they're still trying to destabilize the government. And yesterday Donald Trump said this man has to go, like regarding Imam Khomeini, when Imam Khomeini was saying that Donald Trump has to be blamed for the killing of the people in Iranian history, because he instigated people to come with the arms and cause all those demonstration. And we have heard that there are lots of foreign intervention, particularly through the Elon Musk, the satellite connection, and also the huge money, huge arms has been supplied to this great destabilization. But we are supporting Iranian sovereignty. If you have some issues, but the Western countries has to be blamed because of those huge economic sanctions. Yeah.
Sir, due to technical difficulties, we're not being able to connect Norman Floyd Barnes, but the issue that you raised regarding the Supreme Court ruling, the Supreme Court has given almost 3 lower profile opinions regarding the Donald Trump tariff decisions from across the planet. All of the 3 rulings were unanimous, with separate concurring opinions filed in 2 of the cases. So the cases also, the cases were named Burke versus Choi, Ellenberg versus United States, and Coley Island Auto Parts Limited Inc. versus Burton. So these are the 3 lower profile opinions, but the Supreme Court is set to deliver the fact that these
because
tariffs are not
the reason I'm interested about this, because the way Donald Trump is now planning to impose tariff on his European partners, it is serious escalation. So
there's an economic attrition, if you would call it.
To diffuse this tension, to diffuse this escalation, US Supreme Court could have a vital role against that rulings of Donald Trump, and that might then de-escalate the situation.
Of course, I must thank Professor Rashid Alam for his contribution, valuable insight and attendance in the studio today, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes, who had previously joined on the program from Washington, D.C. As I draw a closure, today is 21st of January in history. The architect of the Bolshevik Revolution and the first leader of Soviet Union had died from a brain hemorrhage at the age of 54. Of course, I'm talking about Vladimir Lenin. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a lovely show. I am Shamsulam Pranto signing out. I shall see you all on tomorrow's program.